Hey, what's up, guys? This is AJ. Today's lecture series we are discussing ARC report. Okay, so today we are going to discuss third chapter of the 12th ARC report. Okay, so the name of the chapter is Functions of Government. What is our procedure? I am going to dictate some points to you. You are going to make notes out of those points. Okay, and then you are going to revise those notes. Okay, so this is our strategy. Okay, next. So these functions could be classified as follows. First is self preservation. Okay, so what it means, like government has to preserve itself from external aggression and internal disturbances. Okay, so for that government have armies, police, judiciary system, etc. So this is nothing but the self preservation. This is the function of the government, first function of the government. Then second is supervision and resolution of conflict. Okay, so strengthening democratic practices and functions, ensuring equality to citizen. Third is setting up conflict resolution, and fourth is fair governance. Okay, so these are the second functions of government. These functions come under the supervision and resolution of conflict. Okay, so what it does is it strengthens democratic process. Then they're passing various laws, setting up institutions. Okay, there is a conflict resolution mechanism also, like judiciary is there. Then there is a fair governance is there. Okay, so through all these things there is a supervision and resolution of conflict. So this is the function of the government. Okay, so third is socio-economic development. So for that they do effective enforcement of law. Then they do welfare of weaker section, and there are some other measures also. So these come under socio-economic development. This is the third function of government. Okay, so next point is regulation of economy. Okay, emerge. See, the this regulation of economy function of government emerged as the most important function of the government. Okay, so under this there should be a sound fiscal and monetary policy. Okay, so this comes under the regulation of economy. Fifth function of the government is provision of goods and services. Okay, the government has to provide some services like education, health, public distribution systems. Okay, so this is nothing but the function of government. It comes under like provision of goods and services. So the commission finds out that broadly we can classify government functions into three categories. First is regulatory function, second is service providing function, and third is developmental function. Okay, so this is the introduction of this chapter. Okay, so now we will look into the depth. Okay, so first point is we discussed earlier that three functions we can classify government functions into broadly three categories. First is regulatory, second is developmental, like service providing functions, and third is developmental. Okay, so about first, that is regulatory function. Okay, so there is one quote by Thomas Jefferson. What it states: government is created to secure the inalienable rights of all citizens. Okay, so we know we have fundamental rights given by our constitution. Okay, so these are inalienable rights. Okay, these cannot be taken away from the citizen. So to protect those rights or to give those rights to citizen, there should be a government. Okay, so this is what the quote states. This quote is by Thomas Jefferson, who was the president of United States. Okay, so next point is there might be conflict between rights and freedom of other persons. Okay, so to protect this again, there is a government. Next, why that is why state creates laws and agencies to enact them. Okay, so there are some laws, and these laws are enacted by various agencies. So this is nothing but the regulatory functions. This is just justification of the regulatory functions of the government. Next is but attaining optimum regulation is challenging task. This is the statement by the commission, that it is not possible to achieve optimum regulation. Okay, next point is there should be balance between individuals freedom and society's interest. Again, we know that there should be a balance between individuals freedom, obviously. otherwise there will be conflict of interest. Okay, so there will be chaos in the society. So to avoid this, there should be a balance between individuals freedoms and society's interest. Okay, so like we know now that like even if you like I will state one example. I don't know how many of you will agree with this, but there was a recent controversy with Ye Dil Hai Mushkil movie. Okay, at that time the Fawad Khan was one of the hero in that movie. Okay, so people demanded to ban that movie just because there was a Pakistani actor in that movie. Okay, so now see what happens is that every individual has freedom. Okay, the Karan Johar has a freedom to cast anybody in his film. Okay, but at the end, society's interest was against his interest. Okay, so he wanted to cast a Pakistani actor, but society was against casting Pakistani actor. Okay, so this kind of there was a clash between Karan Johar and society. Okay, so this is nothing but the this happens most of the time. You will see this kind of conflicts in the society. So to avoid this, there should be a proper government. The government should do regulation. Okay, so to avoid this, there should be a government. Okay, so at that time what happened, government of Maharashtra gave protection to film of the Karan Johar, like that Ye Dil Hai Mushkil movie got protection. Okay, so this is nothing but the regulation by the government in the conflict between individual and society. Okay, next point is, in India, constitution empowers the union and state legislature to make laws on various subjects. Okay, we know this thing. Next point is, article 19 empowers state to impose reasonable restrictions. Again, to we gave what was the first statement of our this regulatory function, that the government is created to protect the inalienable rights of the citizen. Okay, but at the same time, these rights are not absolute in nature. The government article, through article 19 also, that government can impose uh, s- some reasonable restrictions. Okay, so this is the statement. Next point is types of laws which governs the activities of individuals, like traffic laws, taxation laws, etc. Okay, so these laws, what it does, they govern the activities of individuals. See, this is again the regulatory role of the government. Next is systematic rigidities, needless complexities, over centralization lead to situation where government agencies function suboptimally. Okay, so what they are stating is that we agreed that due to these many things government needs to regulate, but because of its own procedural hurdles. Okay, so it is not working efficiently, which it refers to government. Okay, so this is what the statement says. The next thing that the commission finds out, that there is a weak regulation. Again, no, most of the time you will see that nobody follows the traffic signals. Okay, there is no proper regulation by the traffic police. Okay, this happens in everywhere. Like if there is a road construction, there is no accountability maintained by the municipalities. Okay, or the state or the NHAI. Okay, so these things happen. So this is called as a weak regulation. Next is, committee finds out that all regulatory functions carried out by government should adhere to five principles. Okay, so what committee states is that, we need to regulate. We got to know that yes, we need to regulate. We means government of India needs to regulate, but they have to follow these principles as per the commission's report. First is simplification, second is transparency, third is objectivity, fourth is convergence, and fifth is speedy disposal. Okay, so these are the nothing but the regulatory functions of the government. Okay, so thanks guys for watching this video, and in next video what we are going to discuss is the, okay, so one more thing is remaining. I forgot to tell you that okay, so few points are remaining. We will discuss it right now. Okay, so sorry. So commission also points out following aspect of regulation. Okay, so these are the aspect of regulation that commission finds out. Okay, first is regulation only where necessary. Again, what it is just like acting as a guiding principles to government, that the government has to regulate, they have to follow these five principles. But yes, there are some aspect of regulation that you need to remember before following those five principles, is that you should regulate only when there is a necessity. Okay, we should not over regulate. Okay, but most of the time India is criticized as a over regulated country. Okay, why we call it as a over regulated? Because there are so many numbers of regulations in India. Okay, if you see the how many types of tax one pay, okay, you will be very surprised. Okay, these kind of messages are you will find out on your WhatsApp or on your social media accounts. They are most of the time are true. Okay, so next point is outdated regulations are also there. Okay, this article 377 is there. This is always in debate. Okay, so you can state, in the context you can give this as an example. Next is a tendency to over legislate. Okay, legislation becomes an end itself. There are so many laws which are very very difficult to follow. Okay, so then they becomes an end itself. They can kill themselves. Next is complex procedural formalities in regulation. Again, if you like, if you want to take if you want to establish one wine shop. Okay, I'm just giving an example, don't set up a wine shop. But if you want to set up a wine shop, you will find out that there are n number of laws, that the n number of bodies come in front of you. Like you have to take so many permission from so many bodies, so many departments. Okay, then only you will be able to open a single wine shop. Okay, so imagine if you want to establish a factory. Okay, what will happen with you? So these complex procedurals makes or these many points makes India as a over regulated country. Okay, so that's why this commission states to government of India that regulation only where necessary. Okay, next point is regulation to be effective. Okay, poor enforcement of problem. Okay, so if you make a very good law, but your enforcement of that law is very poor. Okay, so it is not going to help the citizens, or it is not going to punish the offenders. Okay, so these things happens. Like in Ganpati festival, what happens is that nobody follows the sound limit, but it is very difficult, or it is you will see that the government does not take any action on those persons. Even if there is a law, okay, through that law we can punish those culprits, but it is poorly regulated or poorly enforced. Okay, so that's why the commission states that regulation to be effective, even if you pass very stringent laws, but if you don't implement them properly, then it is of no use. Okay, next point is very simple, like is self-regulation is best form of regulation. Okay, so what they state is that I will give you one example of VAT. Okay, so value added tax was introduced. What happens in value added tax is that the owner of the shop, or the whoever is doing the businessman, has to declare his tax, like whatever the amount of tax he has to pay, he will state that amount of tax uh, to the body. Okay, so where like cell tax department is there, in that department he will go, on that department's portal he will go, he will log in, he will register, and then he will say that I have to pay 10,000 rupees as a tax, and these are my bills, and take my 10,000 rupees tax. Okay, so what happens is that at that time there will not be any cross verification. Okay, so government trust on these merchants, that okay, so if he is saying that he has to pay 10,000 tax, then it should be okay, we should accept that. Okay, unless and until they find some irregularities, they don't take action on these kind of things, because they trust on the citizen. Okay, whoever is the merchant, they trust on them. So this is just an example of self regulation. Like if everybody does his job, then they don't government has no government does not have to worry. Okay, so this is just one example. Okay, so again, This principle can directly be applied where permission license is required to be renewed periodically. Again, what used to happen in India is that if a particular industrialist wants to create a new project, like a new product, sorry. So what he has to do is that he have to do he had to take some permission from the government officers, okay, before even starting production of that product. Okay, so nowadays what happens is that government trust those industrialists, and they state that you want to create new product, you create it by yourself, don't ask for our permission. Okay, so this is nothing but again self-regulation. Next point is fourth point: regulatory procedure to be simple, transparent, and citizen friendly. Okay, this includes using ICT based technologies, okay, reducing discretion, effective supervision, etc. So these points come under this procedure should be simple, transparent, citizen friendly. Okay, so I think these words are self explanatory, so I will not go into details. Next is involving citizens group, professional organization in regulation activities. Okay, so burden of enforcement of machinery can be shared. So this is the statements, okay, that we need to remember, that burden of enforcement machinery can be shared. Okay, so what I am suggesting, that the commission is suggesting us, is that if you involve citizen at every stage, okay, so what will happen, your burden, the your means government's burden will reduce. Okay, so what I will give one example, like if there are some like if you want to build a house in a particular municipality, what used to happen is that we had to take permission from the architecture, official architecture, the municipality's architecture, and if he permits us that if he approves our plan of that particular house, then and only we were able to build that particular house. That was earlier case, but nowadays what happens is that government has empowered local architectures. Okay, so if you are registered architecture under Government of India, or any registered architecture under Government of India can approve the plan of your house. Okay, so this is just participation of the citizens in the government. So what happens is that government's burden was reduced. Okay, so this is nothing but a simple example. Through this we will not only reduce the workload, but also we will reduce the corruption. Okay, so it has a dual benefit. Okay, so these are the regulatory functions of the Government of India. Okay, so they just what they stated is that they have stated some why we government has to regulate. Then they have answered what kind of principle government should use while regulating. They have answered us like few points, like aspect of regulations they have pointed out. Okay, so these many things they have pointed out. Okay, so thanks guys for watching this video, and we will meet in a next video. Peace.